So before heading to a site, it's important for a health inspector to plan the tools and equipment that he or she might need to make the day successful. So what we'll look at now are some of the pieces of equipment or documentation that are required, some that are recommended, and some that might be brought to the site by the soil evaluator. In most instances, the health inspector is acting as sort of the witness and documenter, and someone else is performing the soil evaluation. But there are times when the health inspector performs that service as well. So we'll look at each one of the basic tools and equipment and talk about the importance of each one of them. So as a health inspector, Title V requires you to be present during certain tasks that happen at a site evaluation and to document them. So there's some tools that should be available to all health inspectors and brought to every single project where you're doing a site evaluation to document these findings. So these tools include some type of documenting journal. Could be a field book like this, could be a clipboard, something where you clearly write down the date, the time, the weather, who was present, what exactly you're doing there, and what your findings were. A sketch of the area, as well as documentation of the various test pits and percolation tests, and lastly, any dimensional ties to any setbacks that may be of concern, like a well or something like that. One other key piece of equipment that every health inspector should have would be a metal tape, a 25-foot tape to measure the depths of different features, like the layers in a test pit or the shelf on the percolation test. Health inspector should also bring a cloth tape. A 100-foot tape is usually satisfactory. This is to measure distances, again, say between different test pits or different percolation tests, or some type of sensitive area like maybe a wetlands demarcation flag or something like that. And the fourth item that should be brought would be some type of stopwatch. Many people use their cell phone, but some way of documenting time for witnessing and recording the results of the percolation test. One of the tasks that you will be doing as a health inspector is reviewing the work of the soil evaluator and determining whether you confirm his or her findings of what is documented in that particular test pit. So some of the tools that are useful for that work include a hand trowel, and the hand trowel will enable you to take some of the soil away off of the face of the wall and examine it and see if you confirm with what the soil evaluator has determined. You're not required to be a soil evaluator, but it's generally recommended as the health inspector at a site evaluation. And if you are a soil evaluator, certainly bringing your color chart would be useful, so you can confirm the findings of the soil evaluator, as well as reference materials, such as some of the books that are provided during the soil evaluator training class on documenting and describing soil conditions, or other texts or reference books that you might have. So as the health inspector for the town or city, you are not responsible typically for performing the soil evaluation, but documenting the findings of the soil evaluator. Some of the tools that are used either by the soil evaluator or by you as the health inspector, and so this might be handy for you to have, include a shovel. Now, particularly like a shovel like this that has a long blade on it. This enables you to clean off the face of the test pit and get a nice look at what's going on inside the test pit. It also is the type of shovel that's often used for digging a percolation test. Sometimes a tile probe like this, or a T-probe they sometimes call it, just has a point on the end, but it can help it sometimes identify shallow depth of bedrock or other impediments or obstructions that may be underneath the ground. And the other tool that can sometimes be handy is a soil auger. If there is a test pit that may not be suitable or safe, this could be used to gather some soil samples to help describe what might be happening at a particular depth or soil layer that might not be accessible in some other way. Well, typically it's not the health inspector who performs the percolation test. Typically the health inspector reviews it and documents it. It's important to know and potentially even have the tools available, because there may be instances where you actually perform the percolation test. So always would need a shovel with a long blade to be able to dig out the hole that the percolation test is performed in. A yardstick or other measuring device so that the water level change can be measured as the water soaks into the ground during the percolation test. I like to provide some type of device like this to actually distribute the water into the ground through. It doesn't have to be something like this, but this will provide an absorptive plate at the bottom so the water doesn't scour out the bottom when it's entered into the percolation hole, and allows it to spread out throughout the percolation test hole in a nice uniform manner. And then lastly, and sort of rather obviously, but water is needed. So either in buckets like this, or if it's at a place where there's water available from a hose, that could be used as well.